Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about all things pottery. Today we're going to be talking about the Skutt 1027, the workhorse. It's known all around the world as one of the best kilns to buy, and I will explain to you why, and I'll also explain some different options in the video as well. So this baby just got cracked open and I'm unloading some Cone 6 wares. This is a great range to fire if you are firing functional pottery, dinnerware. It's a great all-around temperature and it makes some really strong wares. If you get the right clay and the right glaze, you should be really happy at Cone 6. There's different kilns that can fire to Cone 10. Cones refers to temperature, and each cone is going to have a different temperature. I'll show you right here on this chart. So it starts at the low numbers with 0 and then the number next to it, and then it's going to go up, and then it'll start to go cone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you want to have a nice 6 to 10 for dinnerware, I find is best. There's some people that finish it out lower, which is totally fine, but I find that it is a little stronger when you are firing at the mid-range to high range. So I also like to use Cone 10. I use a gas kiln that I borrow. So here's a little video of that kiln in action. These are great for just really earthy tones and different. It's a whole different type of chemistry at Cone 10 and reduction. So we can get into that in a further video. To stick to the indoor electric kilns, I think this is honestly one of the best choices if you're looking for a kiln that can fit in your home, maybe a garage setup, or you may have even a room in the house. Though they can get a little warm, they insulate quite well, and it's actually a really good option. You're gonna need a 220 outlet, and that is gonna either be hardwired in, or you can put a plug. And either way is good. Some people prefer the hardwire because it's a little bit safer, but the plugs allow you to maybe, if you have two of them, unplug one whenever it's not firing and then plug the other one in when you're ready. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both, but I just have mine plugged into a wall outlet down here, which I'll show you, and it works just fine for me. I've been running on plugs for a while. I've done the hardwire, I've done both. Haven't ever had any issues with either, but for safety measures, sometimes people like to hardwire. Great thing about this kiln, it's a set and forget type of kiln. So that being said, you can just program in the program that you want and the cone that you would like to achieve, and it just goes. It's not like the manual kilns where you have to do low, medium, high. It just is beep and you can leave. They are very good, reliable kilns, and you really don't have to worry about too much unless you have some bad elements or relays or anything of that nature. So to give you a little bit closer look at this system here, if you are just a beginner, you can just hit cone fire, and it's gonna ask if you wanna preheat. If your pots are a little wet or you have a little bit of wet glaze, you may put like 1 hour in there or 2 hours, whatever you decide. The cone 04, that's a bisque. So we go ahead and hit that. You can pick slow, medium, or fast. I usually go around medium. You could hit enter, and it's gonna ask if you want to hold the temperature. I would not want that in this firing, and now it's just ready to go, and you hit start, and it's going, and you'll start hearing it click. Everything is operating as needed. I'm going to go ahead and stop this because we're not firing right now, but you can also program. So the holds here, you can go ahead, I have a program set up here. So you have different segments. You can add however many segments you want. You can have it hold maybe at 200 degrees, you can have it ramp 200 degrees at a time, maybe hold at 1800 before it goes up to the full temperature. There's different things you can pick, and you do that in the ramp hold section. That's a little more complex, but if you're just beginning, this cone fire mode works quite well. I used it for years before I started using the ramp hold. So just to get comfortable with it, you can just rock with this right here, and it's awesome. That's really all you need to know to get going on the computer system. They also have a touch screen that you can apply to any of the Skutts, and they are actually pretty awesome, and I'll do a review on those later on. I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview about this kiln right here. They're super sweet. Another option, if you're on a little bit more of a budget, because these do run a little bit expensive, I would go with a Paragon Kiln Sitter, K-I-L-N-S-I-T-T-E-R, like a babysitter, but kiln sitter. So these are older kilns usually. They look a little bit like this. They usually have 3 gauges, 2 gauges. Most of them have 3 switches, a low, medium, and high. And there's usually about 3 of them on the kiln to 2. Depending on the size, they sometimes even have just 1 on the little mini ones. But these are great kilns to start out. I started with one of these when I very first began, and it was only a couple $100. And the only downside to these kilns is the elements are quite expensive. So as they are cheap out the gate, because you can find them almost, they're like a dime a dozen, you can find them all over the place, they usually run you a little bit more expensive in repairs opposed to these guys, but these guys are a little bit more expensive, cheaper repairs. So it's kind of like you got to decide what you kind of want to get out of it. So in that sense, I would start with a $200, $100 kiln, get the kinks out and get used to seeing a glowing red kiln, because it is a little bit intimidating when it's full heat and you've never done it before. It's like, so you want to get that fear out maybe before you get to one of these, but these are actually a little bit safer in the fact that you can just set it and forget it. The low, medium, high switches, you have to go low for a couple hours, medium for a couple hours, and then it goes to high, and it goes until the cone system melts, and it's like a mechanical system where it shuts it off. I'll go over that type of kiln in a future video, but you might want to start there and then get to here whenever you're a little bit more established, because you might not want to be dropping this much money. But hey, if you got the money, go ahead and get one of these. They are sweet. I hope this helps out. I've been loving this kiln for about 4 years now, and I think it was probably 3 or 4 years old before I got it, so it's probably almost 10 years old, and it has just never caused me real big issues. So, and it's actually sat out in the weather under an awning for 3 or 4 years, and it's honestly not rusted too much. Cover it up with a tarp or some sort of cover when you're not firing it if you're putting it outside, because you don't want too much rust coming and you don't want too much moisture getting into this kiln. Ideally, it would want to be inside of a garage or some sort of setting like that. But if you can't, I understand, just build a little awning over it and then put a cover over it and you should be just fine. One last thing I would advise you to do if you have any sort of kiln inside a building or inside your garage and you're going to be working around it or possibly have people walking past it, I would really suggest you getting a kiln vent. So when you fire, all the chemicals and all the glazes are going to have fumes, and you don't want to breathe these fumes unless you want cancer. So they have a hood vent that goes over the kilns. It kind of looks like this right here. It's going to have the kiln and then a hood over it, and it's going to suck all the fumes up the top. Another option, which I chose for this facility because I wanted to get the max amount of fumes out of the atmosphere, I picked a vent that goes on the bottom of the kiln, and it goes through a tube and it gets pulled out through a motor. And the motor is almost like a turbo, and it pushes it outside. So I'm going to give you a little bit closer look what that looks like. As you can see, the tube is hooked up to the bottom of the kiln and it goes straight to the wall. This is what it looks like hooked into the wall. As you can see, it kind of looks like a turbo, and it has a tube that goes to the bottom of the kiln, and it sucks all the fumes out, making it much safer to fire indoors. So you drill about 4 holes in the top of the kiln. They're really tiny. They send you a drill bit that you're going to use, and the system's going to suck from the bottom through these holes, and it's going to bring all the fumes down and out. And it's just hooked up through a dryer vent exit. So it's really quite simple to install. If you need the vent to go good ways, like 10, 20 feet, you can just get tubing, a dryer vent tubing, and just run it outside. And they're really quite simple. The one I use for this studio is a Ventmaster by Orton. Yeah, so Orton is a very good company. They have great kiln products and accessories. So this one is quite nice. They have a Skutt hood that you can buy to put over it and suck it from the top. But all in all, you just want to pick whatever is best for you. I picked this one because it sucks the most out, is most efficient. You actually get a little bit more even firings because the air in the kiln is always moving. So decide what you want to do. If it's outside, you probably don't need to worry about venting too much. But if it's indoors with the closed doors, closed windows like I have in this situation, definitely need a vent. It can get very fumy very fast, and you don't want to breathe that at all. So that's my little wrap up on the 1027. I think this kiln is just a perfect buy for any intermediate to advanced potter. Even a beginner potter is friendly. It's just gonna take you probably a little bit longer to fill it up. But if you're just cranking out pots, this is the machine to go to. It is awesome. I've never had issues. You can add a touch screen to it. It's really reliable, industry standard. If you go into most schools nowadays, they have 2 or 3 of these. So you can just tell they're trusted. So one last thing, cool thing about this kiln is it has a spring-loaded lid. So I can just lift this lid up with my pinky. It's so light, it's very light. And if you have a problem with heavy things, you shouldn't have to worry about this too much. And if you do have an issue with picking up heavy things, I would maybe have a local person install it for you, because it can get a little tricky and they're heavy to transport. So that's all I got to say about this kiln right here. Let me know in the comments if you want me to talk about another kiln. I have access to many kilns. I know lots of people with different types of kilns, so just get to me in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.